Welcome to this edition of Cup Chat with Birding with Texas A&M Agri-Life Extension Service. Today, join me and special guest Patsy Inglet as we discuss local Autobahns and what it means to be a part of a local Autobahn here in Texas. So good morning, everyone, and welcome with Birding with Texas A&M Agri-Life Extension Service. And we are excited today to have special guest Patsy Inglet here today, the president of Bexar County Audubon, to discuss with us a little bit about local Autobahns. So Patsy, kind of give us a background and how you got into birding and how you got into your position as the president at Bexar County Audubon.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much for inviting me today. It's a real joy to be able to speak to you from San Antonio. Bexar Audubon Society came kind of later in our birding. My husband and I retired to San Antonio. We had lived originally from the Houston area, and we lived overseas for 25 years, galloping around, working and living in several countries. But when we retired, we wanted to come back to Texas. So we did. And because we came from Houston, we didn't really know San Antonio's ecosystems and so forth. So we immediately signed up for the wonderful Master Naturalist program. And we were in class 8 in San Antonio, which, like they say in Texas, it ain't bragging if it's true. We were the first chapter. And of course, it spread like wildfire all over the United States and of course, the world. So one of our volunteer things, when they told us we had to have 40 hours volunteer work in a year, how were we going to do that? Well, we latched onto this guy who was banding birds. And I was a biology major and a biology chemistry teacher and that kind of thing. So I've always been interested in it, but we were not birders. My husband's an engineer.
Okay.
A mechanical engineer. So anyway, we went over and helped with bird banding, and we got hooked right in the heart. When you put a live bird in your hand and you look at them, you see how wonderful they are. We decided that was going to be our retirement thing that we would do together. He could work out in his shop, and I could do my things that I like to do on the computer, reading and researching. But birding was what we were going to do together. And the more we learned, the more we realized how much we didn't know. So we kept studying, and we got involved in the local Audubon groups. Now we have 2 in San Antonio. One, Bexar Audubon, B-E-X-A-R. Everybody here says Bear, but it's Bexar. It sounds a lot fancier. Is the one that's affiliated with National Audubon. And then we have a birding club called San Antonio Audubon that's been around longer, that is not affiliated. And we kind of do different things. We have different niches in the birding world, and we've been involved with both of those. So conservation became very important to us. The more you learn about birds and how hard it is to be a bird, the more you know that you have to do something to help these cool little critters. And Bexar Audubon was a little bit more conservation oriented. So we got involved, and of course, when you get involved, people have little volunteer things that they want you to do. And there's a board. And I was invited onto the board a number of years ago and just kept getting deeper and deeper. And finally was asked to run for president and didn't have to run too hard. And here I am today. Since 2019. I've been the president, and it's been a wonderful experience. So birding is something you never know everything about, and there's always opportunities to serve and to learn more.
Absolutely. Well, and if y'all are joining us this morning, we welcome any questions. We are monitoring the comments. Ms. Patsy is welcome to answer. Is excited to answer some of y'all's questions if you have any. If you live inside the state of Texas, go ahead and comment what county you're joining us from. If you live out of state, we'd love to hear what state you're joining us from. Patsy was reminding me that now that we have really embraced the virtual world through the pandemic, how really Zoom and programs like this can bring us all together from all corners of the world. She was saying that in their Bexar County Audubon, the Mitchell Lake Audubon program the other night, y'all had someone from
Argentina,
and that's just amazing. So
Yes.
it is
Yes, you
truly
find that
amazing.
birders are a very cooperative group in general, and we all like to get together and swap bird stories. I'm sure everybody in the audience has their favorite bird story, and we find that that's how we connect with people who are really not yet involved in birding. I heard the other night on a Zoom meeting, it was great. It was called Birdability, and it talks about how we can help everyone have a wonderful experience in nature with the birds. And the presenter's definition of a birder was just wonderful. It's anyone who loves to have an experience, who loves the wild birds in nature. And so that makes it pretty darn inclusive. You can be a birder no matter what level of expertise you think you have. And everybody always knows more than they think. You know, we have direct experience with a lot of birds. And you can do it from, as we've learned during the lockdowns, do it right from your porch or your balcony. Tonight, we're at our Bear Audubon meeting. We have a general meeting the fourth Wednesday of every month, and everybody's invited if you'd like to come on Zoom. We have a gentleman who is an expert birder who was locked down and lives near the medical center in Bear County in San Antonio. And he was amazed at the number of birds. Of course, this was in March of last year, right now, about the same time, looking at spring migration through his balcony. Wow. And he is sharing all the wonderful birds that he was able to see and observe their behavior. You know, sometimes we see them and we've got other things to do and we don't spend the time to watch what they're up to, but bird behavior is fascinating. So he's going to do that program tonight. It's called Balcony Birding in the Time of Coronavirus.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Well, and I think that that's one thing I have we've seen so many rare birds in Texas this year. And, I was thinking about that and we've discussed it several times. Have we really had that many rare birds in Texas, or have we just been looking harder?
I think it's a little bit of both because, with what we've noticed as birders, and we love exploring all parts of Texas. Big Bend is just one of the places that I dream about at night. I just love it out there. We were there at Christmas time and before this big snow came, thank goodness. But I think that we have had a number of rarities in this area because of the droughts and the fires further west. Birds are very adaptable, and if they see a big cloud of smoke or the conditions are not good, they'll try another way. And if they're hungry, they'll come further east than what they usually do. So I think we have had, like around San Antonio and even like over to the Gulf Coast, we've had some rarities this year, but we've had more people watching, and everybody has that little magic thing that they carry around with them, the cell phone or the mobile phone, with photos. They take photos. We have iNaturalists now. You can put them in. We have Merlin to help us identify the birds that we don't know. They're not, birds that we're used to. So I think it's a big conglomeration of things that, so it's probably a little bit of each, but boy, do we enjoy them. There's nothing like your old friends. What we call them is the usual suspects. You out your back door with your cup of coffee and your Carolina wren is booming or your Buick's wren is scolding, those kind of things. But then you walk out one morning and we've had people who've had golden cheek warblers in their backyard, right around where we live on the border between Bexar County and Kendall County, because they're moving through. They're going up to their nesting sites. We survey them right at Friedrich Park, 10 minutes from our home. So every once in a while you look out your window and there is something you've never seen before. And it's just such a thrill. So long answer to a short question, but.
Yes, absolutely. Linda, Ms. Linda, I see your question and we will kind of get to it in just a little bit as we go through. So kind of tell us about what it means to be involved in a local Audubon. And what do y'all really do? You've kind of shared that y'all have monthly meetings, y'all are a group, y'all do conservation work, but kind of give us some specifics.
Okay, well, I don't know if you have a local Autobahn in your county, and that's a shame. I wanted to extend an invitation to all of you that with the Zoom, you are welcome to join us on any of our programs, and I'll give you that website later. But to be involved is exactly what we've been talking about. You're with a bunch of like-minded people who love birds. Our website says we, with a big red heart, love birds and want to help them. And so you can have fun sharing, swapping stories. Some of them really happened, those good stories that get embellished along the way. But it puts you in a group of people who are also oriented toward conservation. And they want to keep those birds around for their children, their grandchildren, and on down. So that's always an uplifting situation. We have a wonderful website. Our webmaster is just a magician. I love that woman. We have different pages about conservation. There's a place you can share your photos if you'd like to. People give their recipes, the best recipe for suet in the world, you know, that kind of thing. In normal times, we have regular outings where we group up and we go birding together. And we feel that is so important to reach out to people who maybe are beginners. We teach webinars, we teach classes. We are writing letters to the legislature. We are writing letters to the Congress, to the president. And I think the neatest thing about being an affiliated chapter is we've got a big brother who's got our back. National Audubon has been around for, you know, more than 100 years. And I'd like to say that the founding of the chapters were 2 women in Galveston, Texas. So yay, year of the month of the women's history and so forth. And women have been so instrumental in Audubon all the way through. So they have contacts that we don't have the maybe the resources to make.
Right.
And they're working on the national level, the international level, and the state level. We have Audubon, Texas, which is based in Austin, but it deals with the whole state. And then each of the chapters is Audubon likes to say, we're local everywhere.
Okay.
There are chapters all over. There are 3 centers in Texas that Audubon manages, and one that they own in Brownsville, Sable Palms, that they own the property, but another organization, Gorgas Science Foundation, actually manages. So it's wonderful to be connected. You know what's going on, you know where you can help, and you know how your work fits in with what people are doing all over the flyway, you know, all the way from the Arctic down to the Antarctic in our flight, in our hemisphere. And then you get connected with people who are in other areas and what they're doing. And it's just so inspirational.
Well, that is so neat, and it's so unique to have such a vast organization and network within the, you know, not only our local communities, but our state, and then our nation, and then even the global community of birders, that Audubon really can connect individuals to and increase their learning and passion within the subject area. So I think that's the most unique thing. I have posted the link, Ms. Patsy, to the Bear Audubon organization.
Oh, thank you.
In the comments for anyone who wants to check out their website. I am going to go check out all the best recipes for suet. I'm not even going to lie. I like to buy the high heat suet balls, but let's just be very honest. I work on a county agent's salary, and so they can get quite pricey. Making my own is a lot more affordable. So
we have some very unique recipes people have made up, especially during the lockdown when they couldn't get to the grocery store, or during the big freeze. When you couldn't get out of the house, people were putting stuff out, and birds are, like I say, they're very adaptable. You put something out and they'll try it, and if they like it, they'll come back, you know. So please do check it out, and we'd love to have you. And I would like to say that Bear Audubon even though we're called Bear after the county,
Mm-hmm.
we are Bear Audubon Society, and we have a region that is 9 counties. It's
Okay.
Bear County and all the counties that touch Bear County, plus Kerr County, because they kind of overlap with Kendall County, and we adopted them, and they allowed us to do that.
How kind.
So if you guys out there in Valverde County, you can contact National Audubon, and if there's several counties that want to get together and make a chapter, make your own, because you are in such a wonderful area for birds. You could definitely support it. So
we are. And so kind of tell us the difference. You mentioned about having San Antonio Audubon and then Bexar County Audubon, about one being under the umbrella of National Audubon and some are not. So what is the connection? What is the difference? What does that mean for everybody out there?
Yeah, basically, we are all good friends and we work together, and San Antonio Audubon's been around since the 50s. And at some point, National wanted all the bird clubs and groups, they invited them to affiliate with the national organization. Some people wanted to, some people didn't, for all their own reasons, and I don't know all the history. And so San Antonio Audubon decided not to affiliate, to become a bird club that they, fully independent, you might say.
Right.
And then in the early 80s, I believe it was 83, there were a group of birders in San Antonio that did want to have that affiliation, especially with the development of Mitchell Lake Audubon Center, that grew out of a group of wetland society people that started it and rescued it from being turned into something else. And so that's when Bear Audubon came about and became affiliated. And we all support Mitchell Lake. We all support bird conservation. And it's just a matter of preference of whether you want to be fully independent. And each affiliated chapter is an independent 501c3, and we join the family by choice. We're by marriage, not you don't have to. But again, we see the benefit of that at Bear Audubon, and we work in that mode. But a lot of us, hey, if it's got bird in it, we're all members of it.
That is very true.
The other day I was giving a program to Wimberley Birding Club. And this lady, we were talking about climate change, and she said, well, I know it's important, but I don't like to confront people with things like that. That's not my personality. I said, well, I'm not like that either. But when you're in a big organization, there are people who love doing that. There are people who love raising money. There are people who love doing research. There's this like you say, of talents. And so you get to enjoy all of it. And this is why we like to work in that frame. So
no, absolutely. And that's you talked about your website, everyone comes together with unique sets of skills and can support the organization in their own way. I kind of look at it this way: all birds count and all birders count. People will say we'll be leading a bird outing. Somebody will say, well, I'm just a beginner. Beginners ask the best questions. They'll ask questions that people who've been doing it a while, or they're too proud or too scared or something to ask, and the beginner will just come right out with it. We have a young birders club, kids from 8 to 18, and boy, they ask some of the best questions. Out of the mouths of babes come questions that you can't answer, and they inspire us to keep learning and to keep researching. And so please don't be intimidated. There are people that know a lot about birds, but you know what? They don't know everything, and they don't know the birds in your yard. So it doesn't matter what level of expertise you have. If you enjoy them and you enjoy being out in nature, we call birds the gateway drug into nature. Oh, yeah.
Because they're always out there and they're always doing something interesting and they're always beautiful.
Yeah, and you talk a lot about the level of birders and beginner birders and advanced birders. And, I think that comes, there's some of that stigma of, I'm just learning. I get that question a lot with our Birding the Border program.
Yeah.
Can I do that? Is this
Yeah.
going to fit in my, knowledge level? And at
Right.
the end of the day, what we really should want to do as birders is, as advanced or experienced birders, we really should want to take those beginner birders under our wing, pun intended, everyone.
Yes.
and really foster that education instead of kind of conforming to that, somewhat of the stereotypical, I'm an advanced experienced birder and you're just bothering me, being a beginner birder. And I think that's, we really need to embrace those beginner birders and really foster them, because they could be, they're just growing their passion. They have not spent as much time as you have. And so they're just at a different level. So I think that you make a really good point how birders at different levels we need to
I wasn't born a birder. I got the love of birds very early from my grandmother. But we all start as beginners, and it's just how long do you stay there? And if you want to stay there for your whole life, that's okay too. And I think most bird people who have, most birders are pretty inclusive, and we just ask a lot of questions. And if people can't answer them, well, that just means that you've reached the limit of their expertise. But there's somebody around maybe that can answer it. But there's so many things that we still don't know about birds that, you talk to Cornell Lab of Ornithology, they have people out all over the globe trying to learn things about birds that we don't know yet. American Bird Conservancy is another wonderful organization, Autobahn, of course, and it doesn't matter which organization you glom onto and affiliate with, at what level, because if they're helping birds and they're helping people understand and love birds, that's all good.
It is. It is absolutely, and I think that's just the unique thing about the birding community that makes it so special, is how just how much some people, the desire to learn, and we talk about that a lot, being in an educator role, and kids and people who have that desire to learn more. It's a rarity, really, in our global society today. And truthfully, birders, they do ask lots of questions. They do want to learn more. And that's so interesting as comparison to what maybe we see in our younger youth, in just the general world, is that desire to learn and gain knowledge about a particular subject that's not Snapchat or social media. So,
well, a fellow bird educator, and of course I was a teacher for many years, and a fellow bird educator at Mitchell Lake put it really well. She said, birding is like a pal. It's portable, it's adaptable, it's lifelong, and it doesn't matter where you find your level.
right.
So it's very important to understand that. And we're trying to open birding up more to all communities, make them feel comfortable out wherever they are. And we have some challenges. Of course, we know that our society isn't perfect. We're working on it. It's a work in progress. But all of these things makes it so exciting. Not only do birds need us, but people who love birds need us to be inclusive and to welcome them all into a hobby that can, oh my goodness, we've got kids that start at like 3 or 4 with their big brothers and sisters and their parents. And we have birders who are over 100 years old. And, they sit, maybe they are not as mobile as they were, but maybe they are. Being out is good for you physically, mentally, and spiritually. So there's nothing bad you can say about birding, except sometimes you get a little tired, but that's good for you too.
Early mornings I'm out on the early mornings.
Yeah, well, I'm a morning person, but not everybody is. So if you don't like getting up early, go study waterfowl. They're out all day.
Or go owling late at night. If you're a night owl.
Yeah, you're the night owl. I don't do that very much because
yeah, no, I'd much rather stay up late than wake up early. So,
yeah.
that's what we have gone full circle into different types of levels of birders and inclusion. And I'm Patsy, I'm going to make a shameless plug. We do hope to see some of your Bexar County Audubon apply for Rio Diablo
Sure.
Youth Birding Camp. That's coming up the end of May, the beginning of June. So hopefully we'll see some of your young Bexar County Auduboners.
Awesome.
So
we'll certainly make them make it available to them for sure.
Yeah, appreciate that. So let's talk a little bit. I know that you've been actively involved in helping Bexar County and San Antonio become a
Bird City, Texas.
Bird City, Texas. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Can you kind of tell us a little bit about what getting a Bird City accreditation means and why you and how Bexar Audubon is involved with that, and kind of what y'all are going to be doing to take that Bird City to be a big deal?
Well, we may need another pot of coffee for all that, but you know.
I haven't had a pot of coffee. I am desperately out of creamer, and so I have been off of the coffee for 3 days. It is about to kill me.
Well, you seem you're doing pretty well. You're not too jittery.
Working on it.
Well, I'm glad you asked that question because Bird City, Texas is a joint project between Texas Parks and Wildlife and Autobahn, Texas. So AgriLife, and we're all a bunch of big family anyway, bunch of nature nerds that
we're
love
all
to get
related
together.
in some way, yeah.
We are we're all cousins. So they put together this, it started actually up in Wisconsin, Bird City. And it was an effort, like some cities are tree cities and some cities are this kind of city, like monarch champion cities and things. Yeah, so it was modeled on the same thing. And there's a website called Bird City, Texas that you can go to and read more about. So we decided with, Bexar County, and we get 350 to 400 birds species. We said, well, if we're not a bird county, who is?
Right.
So we decided Bexar Audubon had a committee. We formed a committee, and we had two wonderful, a board member and our outings chair, who kind of took it. And they said, they came to our board retreat and they say, we want this to be the focus of our efforts in this next year. Now, this was before COVID and all this stuff. And we have a wonderful Audubon, Texas person named Yvette Stewart, who's down in the Rio Grande Valley. She's based in Brownsville, she and her husband. And she helped us, coached us. There's a big application that you have to fill out, and it involves all the community. So we have partnerships now. This was the wonderful thing about it. Building partnerships between the Native Plant Society, Incarnate Word, Headwaters, the San Antonio Zoo, anybody that had anything to do with birds,
right?
Or anything that had any group that had anything to do with bird habitat. And that, of course, brings the Native Plant Society and all kinds of things. So our job, San Antonio Parks and Recreation, wonderful, do a lot of education. We have lots of parks. And Hardburger Park was getting ready to open up their new bridge between the two parts of the park. That was a big deal that year. So our job was just to gather all those different elements and put them in and say, this is what San Antonio is doing now.
Right.
And looking ahead 3 years, what are we going to do to continue to build this? We look at this designation as a challenge. It doesn't mean we're there yet. Right. It means we've been challenged to make San Antonio even more bird friendly than it is now. Because people will say, well, you do, the city does such and such. How can that be bird friendly? Well, maybe it isn't so much right now, but we're working on it. And being designated is an important element of that. So anyway, we went through a 6-month process of gathering all these things and filling out forms and bringing people together and so forth, and submitted it and found out in late January, early February that we had been awarded that designation. So Bear Audubon had several projects embedded in this application. And one of them is Lights Out Texas, which is, oh, wonderful. There's an organization called Texan by Nature, originally kind of the brainchild of Laura Bush. And she and her group are helping to facilitate the cooperation between Audubon, Cornell Lab, again, the whole birding conservation community. And Lights Out Texas is, we're going to be gathering data, feathered data points, surveying buildings downtown in San Antonio to see how the lighting at night is affecting bird migration. And we'll be out there from 6 to 8 in the morning. Woohoo! Not for you, Emily. From April 19th to May 7th.
Night observations, I'm in.
Okay, well, we'll get to you later.
If you need night observations. And I was about to say, I am originally from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, so I am inspired by what Miss Bush is doing here in Fort Worth and doing Lights Out. And then this cooperation with the city and those businesses to take downtown dark at night. Right. So I'm excited and hopeful that trend will continue through all of our major metropolitan areas here in Texas. So that's
yes, right, because the number one city of that affects bird migration is Chicago, right before the birds jump off over the lakes and so forth. Number 2 or 3 is Houston and Dallas, and San Antonio and Austin and El Paso and those areas are now, we're expanding the program. Every program has to start somewhere, right. And then a good idea spreads, but it takes foot soldiers on the ground doing surveys and providing the data that convinces building owners and building managers that to flip a switch can mean the difference between life and death to a migratory bird coming through our area. And Texas is central. We're in the center of the Central Flyway, yeah. And we owe it to give a little travel insurance to these wonderful birds that bring so many people to our state and so much joy to the people who live here. So we're going to be doing that. We're going to be working with American Bird Conservancy on catios. Building your cat an outdoor space that doesn't endanger wildlife. We're going educating people about that, and also with a local architect who is going to work with choice of glass and lighting for residential homes. And it doesn't matter what kind of house you live in or where you live. You don't have to have a big high-rise building in your area, because a lot of birds on migration are affected by residential buildings. So all of these things are in the works, and you can do a lot of them right here in your area. Another big initiative is Plants for Birds. If there's anything that everybody can do in their little piece of Texas, is to plant native plants. That's the best bird food, and also takes care of our bugs that we love so much, because birds eat bugs and bugs eat plants. We know that food chain. And if there's any one thing that an individual, and since the big freeze, a lot of people lost a lot of their exotics because they found out they just couldn't hack it when it got that cold. And all of our native plants that look like they were dead are coming back. Our exotic, if we don't have maybe we had 1 or 2 that were here when we moved into our house, but all the natives are coming back. So I'm posting on our neighborhood blog, replace your dead plants with native plants, and they'll be there after the next freeze. So just wanted to put that plug in for.
I'm gonna say that I hope we don't have a freeze like that anytime soon, Miss Kathy.
Well, that's the only one I've experienced in my considerably longer life than yours, but it was an interesting experience, and I think we learned a lot from it.
Well, absolutely. Jessica just commented that she is on the Native Plant Initiative, but she's clueless where to start. A great place to start is just when I kind of started my garden, I just Googled and kind of there's lots of native plants websites.
Yeah.
But see, this is where I maybe differ, since Dr. Frank is not on right now. We can just not tell that I said this.
Okay.
I am a big fan of Southern Home and Gardens. And so I love a good manicured garden.
Uh-huh.
But, and so Dr. Frank's like, leave it messy for the birds, which is very true. But I think that there are lots of native plants out there that you really can do a very manicured or Southern living yard, as I
Absolutely. Absolutely.
kind of really make a plan. So there are lots of different websites, and I think our master gardeners through Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service, you might really, Jessica, you're from Bexar County, I believe is what you said earlier. Yes, Jessica, Bexar County has a master gardeners program.
Mm-hmm.
I would just reach out to your local extension office and get in touch with your master gardeners, and you'll have a master naturalist program there as well in Bexar County. And any of those people would be more than happy to help you get started. They are the best with our plants and our wildlife out there. So I would check out Bexar County Master Naturalists and Master Gardeners to get you started on a native plant garden or yard, or however you want to do it. Make it something.
Yeah, and the Native Plant Society has a local chapter. It's very active, beautiful website. And of course, we've got the Lady Bird Johnson Wildlife, the Wildflower Center, which is a great resource. Audubon, actually National Audubon, has a Plants for Bird website. So if you put in Audubon Plants for Bird, it'll take you to a website. You put in your zip code and you put in your email, and it'll run out a list of plants, and it'll tell you which birds they benefit and which pollinators they benefit, because we know that's all a big happy family too. It's called an ecosystem. So then you can, there's even places where you can purchase. The Native Plant Society of Alamo, San Antonio, has even local nurseries that focus on native plants. And the more we ask for them, the more they'll be available, because that's supply and demand.
And they're a great resource to just go to your local nursery and kind of tell them what your goals are. Yeah. I always kind of say that it's important to talk to the experts. And while I have a decent yard and grow a few native plants here and there, I'm definitely not an expert. I followed the directions that were given to me when I bought them. And so that's the key to me, is go out and find that expert. And Patsy's right. The Native Plant Society, Master Gardeners, and Master Naturalists, and then the nurseries that focus on having native plants are great resources, because they know they're the experts. They grow.
Yeah, and having native plants doesn't mean you have to have the vacant lot look. Okay, we keep the front of our house. We have an acre lot in an old ranch that was carved up into housing. And we have a very laid back neighborhood. We have no street lights. We have no sidewalks. People are pretty cool. But now if you cross the line and you start to look a little bit too disheveled, then you get a letter from the HOA. Okay. And so the front of our house is more manicured. The back is all ours. We've got 100 different kinds of native grasses. And, we've got wildflowers, and that's where we can look out and go, ha, 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 that's wild. But in the front, we are more cultivated, but it's not an either or situation. It's a choice of what you put in. And it's so important to the birds and the bugs that they eat. And it's something we can all do. It doesn't matter how much we know. If we just go to the experts and say, what I want to plant this and I want it in the shade and yada, yada, then they will give you. But be sure that you're talking to someone who is really oriented toward native plants, because it's like buying binoculars. Don't ask a hunter to advise you on binoculars, or somebody that goes to race car or football games. That's a binocular for a certain type of thing. If you want them for birding, go to Wild Birds Unlimited, or go to a birder and talk to them. So that's something I can't stress too much. It's just so important. And I'm pretty lazy. You might say I'm very lazy when it comes to gardening. And once you get these plants going, you have to kind of baby them a little bit. They creep, and then they leap of the third year. They sleep, they leap, creep, and then they leap. That's the 3 years. And then once they're established, you can pretty well forget them, except maybe once a year trimming them back in the winter or whatever. And you'll look out and there'll be a little black-chinned hummingbird on your Phalaenacanthus. Or there'll be, you'll look out on the seed head of your grasses and there'll be some lesser goldfinches eating the natural food. And you don't have to put any chemicals on them. You don't have to put a lot of water on them. It's 100% good for everything in the ecosystem. So even if you're a lazy gardener, you can do it.
Yes, it is. And it's actually, native plants are just definitely easier to grow because they're native. You don't have to have that care level. So
they grew up here.
Yes, well, Miss Patsy, we are running a little over our 30-minute time slot.
Oh, goodness, yes.
Time flies when you're having fun. Again,
it is.
Intended. So I am so glad you could join us, and we're so excited. Congratulations again on getting with y'all's work with San Antonio to become a bird city, and joining us today to talk a little bit about being about local Autobahn. So guys, if y'all want to be involved in your local Autobahn or are interested in one, you can definitely search the web and find those. There are lots here in Texas. If you have any questions about Bear Audubon Society, I have posted their link in the web, in the comments of today's Cup Chat. And so we look forward to joining you. One shameless plug really quick before we leave. Don't forget, Rio Diablo Youth Birding Camp applications are now open. That is halfway full. And then Birding the Border is almost full, guys. So make sure if you are wanting to come to Valverde County and Kinney County and bird with us at the end of April, make sure you get online and check out those sites that are still available. I think we have maybe 1 or 2 sites a day, and then maybe a few more that are available on Sunday afternoon. So
great.
Go check it out. Miss Patsy, thank you so much for joining us today. It has been so fun.
Thank you.
And we will see everyone next week on Wednesday for Cup Chat next week. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks and good birding. Bye.
Bye.